Queen Elizabeth I, or the Virgin Queen, was the last monarch of the Tudor dynasty and the ruler that led England into their golden ages. She was born into royalty, with her father being Henry VIII, and had to outlive a half-brother and a half-sister before becoming queen in 1558. The Elizabethan era was centered around the choices she made, such as the building of many playhouses, like the famous Globe Theatre, the banishment of Catholicism, and the Elizabethan religious settlement, which later became the Church of England. That one of Queen Elizabeth I's most astounding achievements was her role in the blossoming of English literature and theatre. Yet even with the love of the works created during that era, there are lots of biased pieces written about the playhouses. In the article The Elizabethan Age, the information selected were the prose of Queen Elizabeth I opening up the new playhouses, like the large crowds and new playwrights they helped make famous, and the way it positively affected England as a whole. National Endowment for the Arts writes, quote, Queen Elizabeth also recognized the importance of the arts to the life and legacy of her nation. She was fond of the theatre, and many of the greatest playwrights were active during her reign, including Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, and William Shakespeare. Unquote. The information that was omitted is the way Queen Elizabeth was forced to close down multiple playhouses after Black Plague broke out. It gives you the idea that Queen Elizabeth playhouses had no bad repercussions. It lets you create an image of lovely English theatre while ignoring the fact that the crowded areas caused a rapid spreading of the bubonic plague. In an article opposing the positivity surrounding the Queen's theatres entitled History of the Elizabethan Theatre, the facts about the deadliness of the playhouses are brought to light. What is discussed is a very rare point of view about the theatres, which is how deadly they could be during the times of the bubonic plague. Elizabethan-era expert Linda Alchin writes, quote, During the Elizabethan era there were constant outbreaks of the deadly bubonic plague, the Black Death. The large audiences that were attracted to the massive theatres posed a real health hazard to the largely populated city of London, and in 1593 theatres were closed due to the bubonic plague, the Black Death. Unquote. The information that is omitted is the way the playhouses positively affected London and the way they culturally enhanced plays and literature in the Elizabethan period, and the way those works are still admired today. These two pieces give you two very different views on Queen Elizabeth's decision to build so many crowded playhouses with the Black Death right around the corner. Although the beautiful works of literature that came out of the Golden Age would be a worthy reason to want to live in that era, the bubonic plague contaminating the culturally rich playhouses of England seems to be too much of a risk while taking away the most interesting places of that time. The deaths caused by the fast-spreading plague causes a distasteful bias for the time period. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor during the Golden Age of England. His actions are very vague up until 1592 when he was 28. What is known about his early life is that he married Anne Hathaway when he was 18 and that they had twins together. It is not even known where he was schooled, but it is speculated that he attended a nearby public school. After achieving his fame with the newly built English theatres, Shakespeare died at the age of 52 on April 23, 1616. William Shakespeare is said to be one of the influential literary people from the 17th century, with many of his plays and poems still read today. The details of his life are still debated, as he had time periods where nothing about his actions are known. An aspect of William Shakespeare's life that is debatable are his religious views. There are lots of reasons to believe that William Shakespeare was secretly Catholic, defying the strict anti-Catholicism rule by Queen Elizabeth I. In the article, Was Shakespeare Catholic?, it talks about Shakespeare's Catholic characters and the positive light they were always in. They stated, quote, Shakespeare was not afraid to include favorably presented Catholic characters in his plays. For example, Hamlet from Hamlet, Friar Lawrence from Romeo and Juliet, and Friar Francis from Much Ado About Nothing. They are all kind and emotionally astute characters guided by a strong moral compass. Also, Shakespeare's writings suggest an intimate knowledge of Catholic rituals. Unquote. What the article omitted was the fact that William Shakespeare was baptized, married, and posthumously buried by the Anglican Church. This article gives the reader lots of reasons to believe Shakespeare was secretly Catholic by avoiding the larger points in his life that do center around Protestant beliefs, and giving them bias to the idea that he was Catholic. On the contrary, the article "A Few Doubts William Shakespeare was Catholic," Vatican states, shows opposing evidence that William Shakespeare was truly a Protestant. This article selected Shakespeare's baptism, marriage, and burial in the way they were all under the Anglican Church, and also the way he also had character references to Anglican theology. Quote, "William Shakespeare was baptized, married, and buried by the Anglican Church. There are references to purgatory in his plays, but also many references to Anglican theology as well." Unquote. What was left out in this article is a seemingly small detail that Catholicism was strictly banned during William Shakespeare's time, and that any Catholic practice would have had to been done in secret. And they also omitted the fact that the Protestant priest that married Shakespeare and his wife was later accused of being a Roman Catholic priest, which possibly means his marriage wasn't even under Protestant governing. This bias gives the author the idea that William Shakespeare couldn't have been secretly Catholic, by using major events in his life and emphasizing the way they involved Protestant belief. These two articles show the different ways Shakespeare's life can be manipulated to assert a certain kind of bias upon someone. Depending on the information given, William Shakespeare can either, to a reader, seem like a loyal Protestant or a rebellious Catholic. Bias is an almost inevitable fact of delivering news. Here, the way it affected the information being reported is biased toward 17th century England, either positively or negatively, and biased to believing William Shakespeare was a Catholic or not. Although it is very common and obvious in text based on historical events, bias still occurs now. News services can pick and choose which facts they deliver, leaving us with only certain aspects of an event. As E.B. White states, "I have yet to see a piece of writing, political or non-political, that does not have a slant. All writing slants the way a writer leans, and no man is born perpendicular."